Hi everyone, I'm Amy Drum, and today I'll be presenting on information preservation with a focus on preserving local history collections in public libraries to contextualize the major aspects of preservation in modern information organizations. Local history collections hold stories that communities rely on to understand their past, but they also bring a lot of preservation challenges. So I'm going to walk through why these materials matter and how they relate to the information lifecycle, what kinds of formats libraries handle, the complications that arise when preserving them, and some effective approaches libraries use to keep these materials available long into the future. Local history collections can feel small or informal, but they play an important role in capturing experiences that might never appear in formal history books. They help people conduct family research and explore how neighborhoods, traditions, and institutions have changed. Public libraries are often the most accessible place where these materials can be found. Because they serve people of all ages and backgrounds, they become natural stewards of community memory. A lot of today's digital communication disappears quickly. Messages vanish, posts get deleted, and older files sometimes become impossible to open, which makes it even more important for libraries to identify which materials hold long-term value and preserve them before they slip away. When we look at local history collections through the lens of the information lifecycle, we can see how irregular their path often is. Ideally, information travels from creation to distribution, then wider dissemination, and eventually to use. But local history materials don't always follow those stages in an orderly way. A lot of items reach public libraries long after they were created and without any real documentation. Another issue is that information must be encoded in a way people can actually use. When materials arrive without context or in formats that aren't stable, they don't yet function as accessible information. Libraries have to step in and add the structure, description, and storage conditions that make these items usable for their communities. Digital content complicates this even further. Many digital items skip traditional distribution channels entirely by going straight from creators to users through personal devices, social networks, or cloud platforms. That direct pathway can leave no stable version for long-term use. Because of this, public libraries often end up serving as the place where materials finally enter the life cycle in a meaningful way. They receive the items, organize them, store them, and create the conditions that allow people to find and use them. In other words, libraries bring local history and materials into an environment where the rest of the life cycle can actually happen. Local history collections can include a wide range of materials. They may contain physical items like maps, pamphlets, directories, or scrapbooks. Libraries also manage digitized files created from scanning older materials, which might include microfilmed newspapers or photographs converted into digital images. Born digital content appears more frequently every year. Examples of born digital content include digital newsletters from community groups, event photos captured on personal devices, or local websites and online posts. Because many collections combine items that originate in different eras and different formats, libraries need to understand how each type behaves over time. One ongoing preservation challenge is the fragile condition of many donated materials. Scrapbooks, photographs, and paper items often degrade quickly because of the materials used to create them, so even handling these items can cause damage if the materials are brittle or delicate. Libraries also work with a wide range of formats. Physical scrapbooks, digital files, and scanned documents each require a different approach, so preservation processes must adapt depending on what arrives. Digital files can be challenging to preserve, as they may stop functioning when software becomes outdated, or they may lose quality after repeated copying. To make things more difficult, many public libraries operate with limited staff time or technical infrastructure, but despite these limitations, preservation work still needs to happen because once these materials are lost, they cannot be replaced. Born digital materials introduce several additional concerns. Some formats become unreadable within a surprisingly short period, sometimes only a few years. A file that was easy to open when it was created may later require software that no longer exists. Certain platforms create other obstacles. Social media and cloud services may restrict how content can be downloaded or archived. A library might want to preserve a community organization's online history, but find that access tools are limited or unavailable. Digital content also frequently appears in multiple versions. Someone might save an early draft, a revised draft, and another version with slight edits, all with similar file names. Choosing the best version to preserve takes time and thoughtful review. Digital materials also age poorly without maintenance. They require consistent attention to stay usable, which increases the workload for public libraries that already manage many responsibilities. Metadata plays a crucial role in keeping local history materials understandable. Without accurate and complete description, an item may be stored safely but still remain effectively hidden because nobody can locate it or make sense of its background. Items donated by community members often lack important details. They may come without dates, names, or information about where they originated, which makes it difficult to describe them properly or determine their significance. Oral histories require particular care because these recordings carry cultural and personal meaning, so description needs to be respectful and accurate. Born digital materials also need metadata that documents technical details like file format, software dependencies, and how the file has changed over time. If this information is missing, future users may have trouble understanding how an item fits into a broader historical context. Rights issues can become complicated in local history collections. Donors sometimes share materials they created, but they also share items created by family members, neighbors, or organizations, which can make ownership unclear. Libraries need to confirm what they are allowed to preserve and what they are allowed to share with the public. Some items also contain personal or sensitive content, so decisions about access need to respect privacy, especially when individuals are still living or when materials reflect vulnerable moments in someone's life. Another important consideration is representation. Preservation work should reflect the full range of community voices rather than focusing only on the most visible groups. This means actively seeking materials from people or organizations that have not always been included in traditional archival collections. Libraries use several strategies to address the challenges we've talked about. Many develop preservation policies to guide decisions about digitization, storage, and long-term maintenance. Another approach is to identify items that are at immediate risk. Fragile or highly used materials often become early candidates for digitization. Collaboration also plays a major role. Libraries frequently partner with museums, cultural centers, or regional networks to share equipment, learn preservation techniques, or store digital files more safely. Community involvement can also make a big difference. Some libraries host digitization events where residents bring in family photographs or documents to be scanned. This not only preserves materials, but also helps libraries gather personal stories that enrich their collections. For born digital content, libraries increasingly use web archiving tools and other digital preservation methods to capture websites and online materials before they disappear. So, some key takeaways that may help information professionals entering this area. First, preservation is an ongoing process. Formats shift, software updates, and user needs evolve over time. Even materials that were recently digitized may need attention again sooner than expected. It's important to keep in mind that metadata is essential. Accurate description is what makes a collection useful, and without it, even well-preserved materials can lose their value because their context becomes unclear. And finally, community involvement strengthens local history collections. When libraries collaborate with residents, they build collections that reflect more voices and experiences. The decisions libraries make now about what to preserve shape the historical record that future generations will rely on. So to conclude, local history collections are vital resources that document the identity of a community. They include a mix of fragile physical materials and unstable digital content, each requiring thoughtful attention. Public libraries face challenges related to rights, ethics, limited infrastructure, and shifting technologies. Even so, they continue preserving these materials because they understand the long-term value. Through planning, collaboration, and ongoing care, libraries help ensure that community stories remain available for the people who will study and appreciate them in the future. Thank you for listening.